The Radio Memories Network is brought to you in part by Liberated Syndication. Podcast publishing made easy. Libsyn.com. That's Libsyn.com.
Did you miss out on that big football game last week? Can't get rid of that head cold? Want to get away from it all?
CBS offers you Escape.
You are groping your way slowly through the dark hold of a ship at sea, moving carefully, step by step, searching intently for something you dread to find, because you know that this ship carries a cargo of death.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations presents Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully plotted to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape to a harbor front in Venezuela, and a grim voyage that started there, as told by Martin Storm in his gripping story, A Shipment of Mute Fate.
I stopped on the wharf at La Guaira and looked up the gangplank toward the liner Chan Kay, standing quietly there at her moorings. The day was warm under a bright tropic sun, and the harbor beyond the ship lay drowsy and silent. But all at once, in the midst of these peaceful surroundings, a cold chill gripped me, and I shivered with sudden dread. Dread of the thing I was doing and was about to do. But too much had happened to turn back now. I'd gone too far to stop. So I set the box down on the edge of the wharf, placed it carefully so as to be in plain sight and within gunshot of the captain's bridge. And then I turned and started up the gangplank. I knew what I was going to do, but I couldn't forget that a certain pair of beady eyes were watching every move I made. Eyes that never blinked and never closed. Just watched and waited.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Why, Mr. Warner.
Hello, Mother Willis. How's the best-looking stewardess on the Seven Seas?
Well, I'm fine, Mr. Warner. I guess better run along now. Get on with the show.
Now, wait a minute. That's a fine greeting after 2 months.
Well, it's just that I'm so busy.
I don't believe a word of it. Sailing day's tomorrow. You're simply avoiding me, that's all.
Oh, no, really, I'm not.
And on the trip down from New York, you said I was your favorite passenger.
But I'm only...
Here, wait a minute. What's that you're carrying in your apron
it's nothing. Just supplies.
Supplies? Well, let's have a look, huh?
No, please.
What do you know? It's a cat.
It's Clara, Mr. Warner.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bowman said I had to leave her ashore, and I just couldn't.
Well, who's Mr. Bowman?
The new chief steward.
Oh.
Clara's been aboard with me for 2 years, and I just can't leave her here in a foreign country, especially with her condition so delicate and all.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Well, I hope you get away with it.
You won't tell anyone?
Not a soul. As a matter of fact, if things don't work out right, we may both end up smuggling.
I was happy to have you on board on the trip down 2 months ago, Christopher. I'm very glad you're coming along with us on the run back to New York.
Thanks, Captain Wood. There is one thing, though. I'm having a little trouble with the customs men here, and I wondered if you might...
I can't do it, Christopher. I just cabled your father this morning. Told him I'd done it for you if I possibly could. He sent a request from New York, you know.
Yeah, I thought he would. I wired him from upriver last week.
I hate to refuse, but it's absolutely out of the question.
Well, Captain Wood, I'm afraid I don't follow you there.
Responsibility to the passenger, son. We'll have women and children aboard. On a liner, the safety of the passengers comes ahead of anything.
But with proper precautions.
Something might happen. I don't know what, but something might.
You've carried worse things?
There isn't anything worse. And any skipper afloat will bear me out. Now, Christopher, I simply can't take the chance, and that's final.
Final? Well, it wasn't final if I could do anything about it. I hadn't come down here to spend 2 months in that stinking backcountry and then be stopped on the edge of the wharf. 2 months of it. Heat, rain, insects, malaria. I'd gone clear in past the headwaters of the Orinoco, traveled through country where every step along the jungle trail might be the last one. Oh, Sanchez.
Si, Senor Warner.
We better start looking for a place to camp. It'll be dark in a little while.
Si, Senor. Very soon we turn to river. Camp on rocks by water. This very bad country.
This very bad country. You've been saying that for 10 days now. Very bad country.
Well, si, Senor Warner. This very bad country.
Yeah, we'll skip it. For all the luck we've had so far, it might as well be Central Park.
Central Park? I don't understand.
Oh, never mind. If we don't find something... Hey, what's the matter? Quiet now. Sanchez, what's wrong?
They're in the path. See? Bushmaster.
Bushmaster. The deadliest snake in the world. Bushmaster. Its Latin name was Lachesis muta. Mute fate. It lay there in the center of the path, a 10-foot length of silent death, coiled loosely in an undulant loop, ready to strike violently at the least movement. Here was the one snake that would go after any animal that walked, or any man. It lay there and watched us, not moving, not afraid, ready for anything. The splotch of its colors stood out like some horrible, gaudy floor mat lying there on the brown background of the jungle, waiting for someone to step on it. Here was what I'd come 2,000 miles for, a bushmaster. Sanchez! I didn't want that snake killed.
He no kill, Senor. He gone. Bushmaster very smart, very quick. Must always see a bullet in time to dodge.
Well, anyway, he's gone, and the only one we've seen in 5 weeks.
Oh, we find other. This very bad country.
Well, lay off that gun the next time. Don't shoot, you understand?
What are you saying, no shoot? You want Bushmaster?
Sure, but I want it alive.
Hombre sacristo. Senor Warner, you tell me you want Bushmaster, but you no say alive.
You're getting $200 for it.
For dead man, what is $200? Tomorrow we go back to Caracas.
I'll make it 500, Sanchez.
I catch water snake, rattlesnake, any other kind. But I no catch Bushmaster.
Sanchez, I'll give you $1,000.
We go back to Caracas.
Well, it cost me 1,500 American dollars. But 3 days later, Sanchez brought me the snake in a rubber bag. He was shaking so hard, I thought for a moment the thing had struck him.
One thing you make sure, Senor Warner. Not turn him loose in Venezuela. Because he know I the one who catch him. And he know where I live.
All right, Sanchez, I'll keep an eye on him.
Tambien he know you pay me to catch him. All the time he watch and wait. You no forget that, Senor Warner. Because he no forget. Not ever.
Well, after going through all that trouble and danger and laying out $1,500, I wasn't going to let a pig-headed ship captain stop me at the last minute. At least not as long as the cables were still in operation between La Guaira and New York. Morning, Captain Wood. The boy at the hotel said you wanted to see me.
That's right, Christopher. Sit down.
Thank you.
It seems you weren't willing to let matters stand the way we left them yesterday.
I'm sorry to go over your head, Captain Wood, but I had to. The museum sent me all the way down here for it. And I'm not going to be stopped by red tape. This will be the only live Bushmaster ever brought to the United States.
Yes, and if I had my way, but... well, orders are orders. I got a cable from the head office this morning. All right. I suppose we talk about precautions.
I'll handle it any way you say.
Got to have a stronger box. That crate's too flimsy.
It's stronger than it looks. And that wire screen on top would hold a wildcat. But anyway, I bought a heavy sea chest this morning. And we'll put the crate inside it.
Sounds all right.
A fiery
got a lock
horse
on
with
it?
the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty
lid can
oh,
high
be popped open a
silver.
crack without
The
unlocking.
Lone
Snake's
Ranger.
got to have air.
But in dirty weather, that lid stays shut. Take no chances.
Fair enough.
I will keep the thing in my inside cabin where I sleep. I can't have it in the baggage room.
This is the
And
legend of a man
nobody
and a
on board
horse,
to
and
know
how they
about
met.
it.
Whatever you
The
say,
story
Captain.
of the Lone
But we won't have
Ranger
any trouble.
and his great horse,
After all, it's
Silver.
only an animal. It doesn't have any magical powers.
I saw a bushmaster in the zoo at Caracas once.
The Lone Ranger
Had it in a glass
battled
cage
with
with
the
double
English
walls.
outlaw in the West. His name
Never
was Butch
moved.
Cavendish.
Just
They
lay
had followed
there.
his trail for many weeks.
Look at you,
Until
as long as
finally,
you were
they
inside.
noticed that the hoof prints of the outlaw's horse
The
were
man
fresh.
creeps.
I didn't know they had a bushmaster at the Caracas
Yes,
Zoo.
Tonto.
They
You
don't.
can't be far ahead.
Now,
Him out run us last
found the
time.
glass broken one
Maybe
morning,
better we
the
shoot
snake
in sight.
gone.
No, I want to
Night
take him
watchman
alive.
is dead.
That shot.
Look out.
Never
Steady there,
found
steady,
out what
boy.
happened.
Over
Well,
there.
the watchman must have broken the glass by
Tonto,
accident
he
some
missed
way.
me, but he shot my
The
horse.
way they
Get after
figured
him.
it, the glass was broken from the inside.
Tonto's horse was tired and no match in speed for the
Well,
animal Cavendish rode.
sail in
The
4
outlaw
hours.
escaped. When Tonto returned from the futile chase, he found the Lone Ranger standing beside his
We
dead
steamed
horse.
north
A
into
good
the
horse,
Caribbean,
Tonto.
with
Loyal,
perfect weather
faithful,
and a sea
brave.
smooth as an
But my
inland
next
lake.
horse must be faster.
The barometer dropped a
I
little on
wish
the
that-
third day, but cleared up overnight and
You've
left
heard
nothing
stories
worse
of
than a
wild
heavy
horse,
swell.
A fiery white stallion.
But in spite of the
You've
calm
seen
seas
your
and
valley
the
over
pleasant
there,
weather,
where Cavendish
I found myself
We'll
feeling
be on the
more
lookout
and
for the
more
wild
often
horse while we follow
an ominous
Cavendish.
foreboding. I was developing almost unnatural fear of that snake. Like they'd clear the passage, pretty much. Got the
Tonto's
habit of
horse
dropping
carried
into
the Lone
Captain Wood's
Ranger's
quarters
saddle,
several
his
times a
saddlebags
day.
and bridle,
He kept
while
the
the
heavy
masked
box
man and the
underneath his
Indian
berth.
continued on foot along
I'd
the
approach it
outlaw's
quietly
trail.
and
When
shine
they
my
reached the top of a
flashlight through
hill,
the
Look,
open
Tonto.
crack.
they halted suddenly
Never once
and
could I
stared at
catch
an
that 12-foot
awe-inspiring
devil
sight
asleep.
far down in the valley.
Or even excited. He'd be lying
They
there,
saw a
half
great white
coiled, his
stallion in a
head
death
raised
fight with a
little,
giant buffalo.
staring out
The
of those
horse was
beady
plunging,
black eyes.
rearing, charging, and dodging
Waiting.
wildly, and the sun flashed
It'd
from
still
his
be like
coat
that when I
as from
turn
a
away
coat
to
of
leave.
polished silver. They realized
Maybe
that
that's what
this was the
bothered me.
legendary white
Horrible
stallion,
and
the
constant
one ranchers and
watchful
hunters
waiting.
had talked so much about.
What in the name of heaven was he waiting for?
I'll try to shoot
Well,
the
hello
buffalo.
there, Mr. Warner.
Oh, how are you,
I'll
Mother
get
Willis?
closer before
But
it's
you
too
and the
late.
captain spend an
As he
awful
ran
lot of time
downhill, the
around
Lone
this
Ranger
cabin.
watched the battle.
I'm
The
beginning to
sleek
think
white
that
stallion
you
was
must
nimble
have
and
some
courageous,
guilty
but his
secret.
strength
Oh,
began to wane.
nothing like that,
The buffalo
Mother Willis.
charged
I don't know
again and
about
again.
Captain Wood, but
The splendid
I
muscles of the
certainly
white
don't have
horse
any
were
guilty
slower
secret.
in responding, then too slow. He was caught by the buffalo's charge. Wet crimson stained his pure white coat. Another charge. The white horse saw it coming, and he couldn't dodge. He staggered and fell. The monster drew back and lowered his
Well,
head for
she's
the
running
death
quite a
charge.
swell out there,
And then
Mr. Bowman.
two shots rang out.
Heavy, all right, Mr. Warner.
The buffalo shuddered from the
Just a
impact of the
storm
masked
passed through to
man's
the west
bullets.
of us yesterday
For an
when the
instant, he
glass
stood
dropped.
motionless.
Think it missed us then, huh?
Yeah,
Then
that's
fell.
what the mate figures. Sure stirred up some water, though.
This'll put half the passengers in their bunks.
Makes it great for my department. 2/3 of whom will want a steward to hold their heads.
They'll keep Mother Willis so busy she'll have... Wait, look at the size of that wave.
Huh? Great Jehoshaphat! We're going to take it on the port bow! Hang on!
Only battered during the next several
Well, that
days,
was a
the
freak
masked
if there ever
man
was
and the
one.
Indian cared for
Not
the
another
injured
wave in
horse.
sight.
See
Then
'em
the
like
wounds
that
were
sometimes.
closed, and the
You want a
horse's
calm
strength had
sea.
returned.
Well,
There
I
was
got to get
once
below,
more
Mr.
fire
Warner.
in his eye,
That
a
water
spring in
probably
his
did some
step.
damage on the
His
opposite
head
deck.
was
The eyes
lifted
opposite-
proudly.
What did you say?
Tonto.
Wheel companionway
He's
was
himself
open on the
again.
port side. Bridge cabins must have taken a pretty bad smashing up. They're right below
I wonder if
the,
you'll take a saddle. Let's
here.
try.
Is
Steady
something
there.
wrong, Mr. Warner?
Boy.
No, nothing at all, Mr. Bowman.
Me get rope.
At least I hope not.
No, Tonto, wait. Let him go. Like to have that horse he deserves that freedom. He fought
I
for
looked
it.
first for Captain Wood and couldn't find him. Of course, I knew it was only one chance in 1,000, but the chances against that freak wave were 1 in 1,000, too. Well, I couldn't waste any more time, so I stumbled down the companionway and along the passage to
Be a
the
name for
captain's
him.
cabin.
Oh, come on in, Mr. Warner.
Mother Willis.
I isn't this cabin a mess? Trying to get some of these things out to dry.
Yeah, well, I just wanted
coming
to check.
back.
Where's that
Just
box
as
that
if
was
he
under
knew
the
what I
captain's
said.
bunk?
Threw it out on that, Mr.
Silver!
But where? We
Silver,
didn't
you
know.
beauty.
It was nearly dark when we met together again in the chart room.
As the mighty stallion
no
felt the
other way
halter,
around
he
it.
trembled as if from a
Risk all the
chill.
time we can.
Every instinct
We
told
took
him
the
that he
warm
must
passage.
flee at once
How
to
we do
preserve
it,
his
Captain?
freedom.
Call them all together in
Yet
the
he stood
lounge?
his
No,
ground.
if we did anything like
It
that,
wasn't
we'd be asking
gratitude
for a
that kept
panic.
him there.
We'll get one
It was
whether we
something
ask for it or
stronger,
not.
some
Pick a few
mysterious
men and go
bond
through
of
the cabin
friendship
deck.
and understanding.
Tell them individually.
He heard the man's
inside their
voice,
cabin.
and he
Watch
liked
for
it.
any act that
Silver.
looks as though it might cause trouble.
Silver.
We'll keep an eye
We're
on
going
it.
to be partners.
Handle the crew the same way.
All right, Captain.
Okay.
Now, as soon as you've finished,
Now, Tonto.
arm all the deck
saddle.
officers and start searching
No
again.
horse like that.
Our only chance of preventing a riot
Never
is
was
to
a
find
horse
that
like this.
damnable snake.
Now, Silver, we're going to work together.
The horse was wild and unused to the ways of men, and the weight of
Slow
a
night
saddle and a
there that
rider.
followed.
But the
grew
masked
worse
man
for
was
the
a
hour.
kind teacher. He was
None
gentle
of us
yet
slept.
firm, and
All
Silver
the
was
ship's officers
intelligent.
not on duty
The stallion seemed to
kept on
sense
with
the
that endless
desires of the
search.
Lone Ranger and did his
Passengers
best to
locked themselves
cooperate.
in their cabins
He learned
or huddled
quickly
together in
that
the
after
lounges,
several days of training,
knowing all
he
the
was
time
ready.
that no spot
Follow
on
me,
board
Toto.
could be called
I'm
safe.
going after Cavendish.
Fear was a heavy fog in the lungs of all of us, and every light on the vessel burned throughout the night.
No hoofs had ever beat
Morning
the plains
came,
like those thundering
brought no
hoofs of
relief.
the great horse Silver.
Terror and tension
During the
mounted
past
to the
few
hour.
days, Cavendish had gotten far away, but the masked man and
Now,
Tonto
Mrs.
trailed him
King,
relentlessly
get
with
yourself all
only a
worked up
minimum
and
of
go
rest.
back to your
It
cabin.
took days
The
to
horrid
cut down
thing's
the
probably
outlaw's
crawled
lead,
overboard
but at long
anyway.
last,
You're just
Cavendish
saying
came
that.
into view.
Your face is dead. You don't know. Nobody does now.
The mighty stallion responded with a new burst of
Oh, you
speed.
could only do something.
Cavendish
All of us
fired
could
wild
only get
shots
off
over
the
his
ship.
shoulder until
And
his gun was
just
empty. His horse, though powerful and
That's what
fast,
they've
was
got
no
to
match
do.
for the charging
We've got to
Silver.
get out this way.
Fear and
It's
panic
the
filled the
moment.
outlaw's face.
Suppose he's
He
gonna
heard the
jump
hoof
in.
beats ever nearer. And then the masked man shouts.
I want you, Cavendish.
Nice work, Mr. Bowman.
The masked
Get
man's
it out of the
avowed
cabin,
mission
whatever you
was
do, don't turn her
accomplished.
loose.
The last of the Cavendish gang was captured to be tried by law and punished for his crimes. There were many others whose criminal plans were to be challenged by the Lone Ranger, his faithful Indian companion Tonto, and his great horse Silver.
All right, mister. You better quiet down. Take it easy.
Take it easy, huh? Well, you're a great officer. Why don't you do something about it? That thing might be falling off. You're right on our feet somewhere.
Like I said, shut up. Are you trying to start a panic?
I got a right to talk. I don't want to die. Nobody's going to tell me what.
The second night passed, and morning came around again. A gray and rainy day, just as grim and tense, dragged past, and the night came down again. Third night of the terror. Again, every light burned, and the whole ship seethed in the throes of incipient panic. Faced by a horror they'd never met on the sea before, crew and officers alike were on the verge of revolt. Passengers sat huddled in a trance-like stupor, ready to scream at the slightest unknown sound. At 7 bells, I made my way forward to the chart room and found Captain Wood bent over a desk.
Hello, Christopher. Come on in. Sit down.
Well, it's got to be somewhere, Captain Wood. It's got to be.
I don't know. You could search this ship for 6 months and never touch all the places aboard. We can only hold out for 2 more days. We'll be in.
What's the Home Office say?
Oh, here's the latest wireless from them. Keep quiet and keep coming. What else can we do? How is it on the deck?
Pretty bad. Anything could happen.
Yeah. That's why I took the guns away from the men. One pistol shot and we'd have a riot on our hands.
Oh, the whole thing's my fault, Captain Wood. That's what I can't forget.
Oh, take it easy, Dad.
There was only some way I could pay for it myself, alone.
No, I know how you feel, but it's no more your fault than mine or the man who asked you to bring the snake back alive. Nobody planned this. You'd better try and get a little sleep.
Sleep?
Mr. Bowman made some coffee down the steward's galley a while ago. You better go down and get yourself a cup. And then rest up for a couple of hours.
Rest? I can't rest.
Christopher, it's no good going. What are you going to do? You can't help anything if you tumble through a hatch half asleep and break your neck. Go on and get some coffee. One way or another, we've got to hold out for 2 more days.
The light was on in the steward's galley, and the coffee pot was standing on the stove. It was still warm, so I didn't bother to heat it. I poured out a cup, carried it over, and set it on the porcelain tabletop in the center of the room. I started to light a cigarette. The door of the pan cupboard beneath the sink was standing slightly ajar, and I happened to glance down toward it. Out from the dark interior of the cupboard shone 2 glittering points of light 2 inches apart. I dropped the cigarette and moved slowly backward. I'd found the Bushmaster. As I moved, the snake slid out of the cupboard in a single sinuous glide and drew back into a loose coil on the galley floor, never taking his eyes off me. I moved slowly back, waiting any moment for that deadly, slithering strike. How had he known it was me? He'd stayed quiet when Bowman was here. How did he know to pick the first time in 3 days when I didn't have a gun? Well, my hands touched the wall behind me and I stopped. Only then I realized in terror what I'd done. The call button and the door were on the far side of the room. I'd backed into a dead end. I stared at the snake in fascination, expecting any moment the ripping slash of those poison fangs. The horrid coils tightened a little, and then were still again. 10 million years of evolution to produce this moment. Homo sapiens versus Lachesis muta. Man against mute fate. And all the odds were on fate. I knew then that I was going to die. I could feel the sweat run down between the painted wall and the palms of my hands pressed against it. My skin crawled and twitched, and the pit of my stomach was as cold as ice. There was no sound but the rush of blood in my ears. The snake shifted again, drawing into a tighter coil, always tighter. Why the devil didn't he get it over with? And then, for just an instant, his head veered away. Something moved over by the stove. I didn't dare turn to look at it. Slowly, it moved out into my line of vision. There was a cat. That scrawny cat Clara that Mother Willis had sneaked aboard in La Guaira. Its back was arched and every hair stood on end. It moved stiff-legged now, walking in a half circle around the snake. The bushmaster shifted slowly and kept watching the cat. He tightened. He was going to strike at any second. He struck and missed. The cat was barely out of reach. Now she was walking back and forth again. She was asking to die. Missed again by a fraction of an inch. He was striking now without even going to a full coil. Missed. Again and again. Always missing to the barest margin. Each time the cat danced barely out of reach, and each time she countered with one precise spat of a dainty paw, bracing her skinny frame on 3 stiff legs. And then suddenly I realized what she was doing. The bushmaster was tiring, and one strike was just an instant slow. But in that split second, sharp claws raked across the evil head and ripped out both of the lidless eyes. That cat had deliberately blinded the snake. Well, he didn't bother to coil now, but slid after her in a fury, striking wildly and rapidly, always missing, and every strike was a little slower than the last one. Until finally, as the snake's neck stretched out at the end of a strike, the cat made one leap and sank her razor-sharp teeth just back of the ugly head, sank them in until they crunched bone. With tooth and claw, she clung as the monster snake flailed and lashed on the floor, striving to get those hideous coils around her, trying to break her holds, to shake off the slow and certain paralyzing death that gradually crept over him and at last stilled his struggle forever. I took a deep breath. The first in minutes. The cat lay on her side on the floor, panting, resting from the fight just over. And she had a right to rest. That mangy, brave, beautiful alley cat had just saved my life. And maybe others as well. But as I turned toward the stove, I suddenly became very humble. And I knew all at once what a small thing a human being really is. I and others aboard were still alive only by the merest accident. There were 3 reasons why that cat had fought and killed the world's deadliest snake. And those 3 reasons came tottering out from under the stove on shaky little legs. 3 kittens with their eyes bright with wonder and their tails stiff as pokers. Up on the decks, hundreds of passengers were waiting for the news that the days and nights of terror were ended. Well, I could wait a little longer. I pulled open the doors of the cabinet, found a can of milk. And then I dropped down on my knees on the floor of the galley.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and tonight brought you A Shipment of Mute Fate by Martin Storm, adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield, with Jack Webb as Chris Warner, Raymond Lawrence as Captain Wood, and D.J. Thompson as Mother Willis. The special musical score was conceived and conducted by Cy Fure. Next week,
At this same time, when you're tired from a hard day at the office, or leaning over a hot stove all day, when you want to get away from it all, CBS again offers you Escape.
Good night, then, until this same time next week when CBS again brings you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.